welcome back. Jason Levine with the Dice Tower with another Gen Con preview, and we're here at Ultra Pro's booth, and you have a bunch of new stuff shown. This is Justin from Ultra Pro, and we have a bunch of stuff. Shards of Infinity, there's an expansion.
Yes.
Tell me about this.
Yes, so this is actually something we're exclusively previewing at Gen Con. For those of you that don't know, Shards of Infinity, my newest deck building game since Ascension, and it's been a huge hit. We actually are selling out of the entire first print run right here at the show, and so people have been asking about the expansion, so here's the previews for it. So the expansion is called Relics of the Future, and it is only $9.99. It comes with a bunch of cards to include new rules for solo play, new rules for 2v2, three-person bloodbath. But the coolest mechanic is these relics right here. Mm-hmm. You'll notice that there's 2 relics for each of the characters. One of the things that people always asked us when we started playing Shards was, oh, well, the characters are all the same. They just are like different art. Like, do they have any, anything that makes them unique? Well, now they do. And so the way they work is that when you get to 10 mastery, you get to pick one of the 2 relics that you have and acquire it. The other one is not going to be used in the entire game. So that's why we call it Relics of the Future. You have this like future that you can foresee with the power of your shards. Do you want to be a mighty warrior that crushes all who oppose you? Do you want to be protecting your people and like regrowing things from your discard pile? And each one has a different story associated with it and are all incredibly powerful. So it's a really cool way to build a different starting position without like railroading you into one plan, right? That's always been a problem I have with like different starting positions.
Yeah.
Even in my own game, like in Dawn of Champions, there's an Ascension expansion where you all had your original characters. It's very popular, but for me at least, after I played it, a couple dozen times, as soon as I get the Lifebound champion, I know I'm just going to buy a bunch of Lifebound cards. So here, you don't get railroaded into one path. You can pick which way you want to go. So I'm really excited about how that's going to play out.
Oh, this is great. This is definitely great with the choices, and you could try different things each game just to try out the new features.
Exactly. And with all of the alternate and variant rules we include in the expansion, there's tons of ways to play and switch it up each time. We have rules for like drafting the relics. We have rules for doing auctions. So there's all kinds of stuff. For anybody that's into Shards of Infinity, for $10, you're going to get an enormous amount of additional play value. Plus, we have some just really cool cards. Like this guy is a champion that gives you 4 power, and then if you have 10 or more mastery when you use it, you can ignore all their armor. Mm-hmm. So for everybody that's been frustrated out there by somebody defending and blocking all their damage, you can now get right through it, and so that's a really cool one-of. So we just have a lot of cool individual designs, a lot of fun stuff, and so this is coming out in October. We're already working and making plans for the expansion after that, so it's really 2
expansions. Okay, yeah. I'm excited now.
Well, yeah, Shards has been, just people have really reacted well to it, and so just like Ascension, we'll talk about it later, but Ascension is on its 13th expansion. We launched it here at Gen Con 8 years ago, so Shards looks like it's going to be a similar sort of thing, and there's enough people out there playing it. We're going to keep supporting it and building it out, so I'm excited.
Excellent. And I see a book over here. Tell me about this.
This is something I'm super excited about. Honestly, it's something I've been wanting to do for the last 8 years. I've been making a living in the game industry for 20 years, and this book was my attempt to really codify that and the lessons I learned, not just from my own work and starting a company, building my own games, but also I did interviews with a lot of the top designers out there, Richard Garfield, Mark Rosewater, Paul Peterson, a lot of like the really famous designers, and I realized that game design and creativity, it's just a step-by-step process. It's not magic. It's not something that you don't have, anybody watching doesn't have. As long as you're willing to follow this process, and this book has like exercises and step-by-step instructions so that you can, whatever your dream is, whether it's making a game, starting a company, writing a book, the same creative process works for everything. And so I talk about the core design loop and how you can step through that stuff. And so right now you can, the book doesn't actually come out until September 9th, but you can pre-order it right now at thinklikeagamedesigner.com and get bonuses. And for those of you that are interested, there's an amazing opportunity going on right now. I don't know when this is going to air, but as of Gen Con, this book is, an excerpt from the book is part of a Humble Bundle. And so if you're...
So what's this Humble Bundle?
Yeah,
Tell me about this.
So a Humble Bundle is something for charity where you basically can give any amount of money you want to charity, and then we give you free stuff. So you can go to humblebundle.com and look it up, and if you pay even $1, you get copies of my book, copies of Mike Selinker's Puzzlecraft book, some of the game design writings from Richard Garfield, from Elisa Teague, from a lot of like really famous designers, amazing books that you can get digitally for almost for nothing, and you get to give money to charity. And so that's only going on for a 2-week period. So if you're seeing this, you can jump on and get that right away, and you get to do some good for the world. You get to learn a lot about game design, and of course, if you want to have my full book, you can just buy it from thinklikeagamedesigner.com or Amazon or Barnes & Noble or something like that.
Yeah, I find this really interesting because, you know, I play a lot of games and I know strategies, but to actually come up with a game and to be able to figure out how to create something that's interesting and fun must be very difficult, and it's great that you could kind of put out a book to explain like the concepts of how to make a game.
Yeah, exactly, and I get that all the time, right? One of the great things about coming to Gen Con is I get to interact with fans and see people who just love games. I mean, people here are so passionate about it, and then I get more than anything else, like, how did you come up with this? How do you think of these ideas? It seems so hard, and this book was trying to make it like it's not easy, but it's not complicated either. It's a process, and you have to be willing to go through it. And my book talks about the psychology of it too, right? How do you get started? What do you do to come up with new ideas? How do you overcome obstacles? And what's stopping you, right? Like fear. How do you overcome the fear? Like it's scary when you put out a new game. It's scary when you put out a book. You know, there's this ego part of you that's at risk. And so the book talks about the psychology as well as the practical matter. And how do you get your game published? How do you get hired? How do you make money as a game designer? I cover all of that in the book. So for anybody out there that has a passion and has felt like just a little unsure what to do, like hopefully this book is here to help.
No, it's great. I mean, if you're a budding designer, this is the kind of book you'd want to read where you could learn more about it. Or if you're Tom, you could try to make a game which didn't come out well, as we all know what Vicious Fish is. But luckily he got it right the second time with nothing personal. So, you said you had Ascension stuff, so let's talk about that next.
Okay, let's do it. You want to move over to the next table?
So now we're here looking at Ascension Delirium, the newest version.
Yep.
Tell me a little about it and what you've added, changed, etc.
Yeah, so it's very exciting. This just came out a few weeks ago. Ascension Delirium is our 13th Ascension expansion. We released 8 years ago here at this show. And so what we've been able to do is take some of the best mechanics that we had before and then present them in new and exciting ways. So one of the things you might notice here are these cute little
amber gems,
right? These are called Insight. And for those of you who have been Ascension fans for a while, you'll remember Insight from the Dreamscape mechanic. The Dreamscape set, you used Insight to buy dream cards, which were separate cards that only you had access to. And this set, we're returning to the dream world, but everything's gone mad. It's a world of nightmare. That's why it's called Delirium. And so instead of using Insight to buy cards that are reserved and secure, here you roll the Delirium die.
Ooh.
Yeah. So this is a custom die that we had made. You pay 5 Insight to roll it, and you get a resource depending upon what side you roll. So it could be banish 1 card, draw 2 cards, gain 3 runes, gain 4 power, gain 5 honor, or gain 6 Insight, which means you basically get the Insight back and can roll again. So it's a very exciting mechanic, and I want to head off some of the fears, because some people, they see a die and they're like, oh no, it's going to be too random, what do I do? I've been wanting to put a die into Ascension for the last 5 years, and I never found the right way to do it. And the key was that by using the Insight mechanic, which is a very strategic mechanic, because Insight tokens store from turn to turn. So just as a brief recap, you get Insight whenever a Dreamborn card shows up in the center. Everybody gets an Insight, and if you buy the Dreamborn card, you get an Insight. So it's a very, the decision about when do you want to roll the die, when do you want to use those resources is very strategic, because in certain boards, 3 runes will make a big deal. Certain boards, like for example, there are no monsters on this board, so power would be useless. So you might want to wait to roll the die until there's some monsters, so more of the sides are good for you.
Yeah.
Right? So there's a lot of strategy that comes with it, and yeah, the fun of rolling a die and hoping for the best is just, it's really fun. I mean, come on, let's be honest. So there's a couple other mechanics also revolving around Insight. One is cards that have recur. If a card has recur, you get the effect of the card, and then you may pay that much to get the effect a second time. So for example, in this one, you can pay 3 Insight to gain 3 extra power and return another void card from your discard pile to your hand. So that can be very powerful, and again, it's another strategic way to use your resource. Finally, I'm a sucker for auction mechanics. I love games that have auction mechanics, so I threw one into Ascension.
Ooh.
So these are Fate Powers, which if you remember from older sets, Fate Powers are ones that when they show up in the center row, they have an immediate effect. In this case, you auction Insight. So I will bid a certain amount of Insight that I have to try to get the effect on the card. So if it flipped on my turn, I have to bid at least 1 Insight. So I could bid 1, maybe you would bid 2, I would come back and bid 3, and if you bowed out, I would spend my 3 Insight and I would get the effect on this card. So I get to draw a card and banish a card from my hand. And of course, these cards can be acquired as normal, just like other Ascension cards. So that's kind of the big new hooks. And of course, we have all kinds of crazy new cards. And one of my favorites, actually, you know, as we're recording this, the World Championships is going on in the other room. Our current world champion, one of the advantages of being world champion, I'm going to see if I can find the card. You get turned into a card. Here it is. You get turned into a card, and this is the first of our players that wanted to be turned into a giant monster, and so he is a beast.
Dream Titan.
So he's trying to defend his title, but somebody else is going to get added into our future set. And this one, you gain 7 honor. You get to take all of somebody's insight and a random card out of their hand. So it's one of the nastiest monster effects we've ever done. And there's tons of cool splashy cards like that throughout the set, but this is one of my favorites.
That is very cool. Has anyone won this twice and gotten 2 cards yet?
No, nobody has ever won twice. So we've been doing World Championships here for the last 7 years at Gen Con, and it's 7 different champions. So we're going to see if somebody can win it twice. Maybe Glover will do it today.
Glover, you might get 2 cards. You could be like the Twin Titans. I mean, I think that's pretty cool. That's a nice way to reward champions of a tournament, is to include them in a future set.
Yeah, exactly. You get to be a part of the game forever. It's a really big honor. We're also giving away some pretty big cash prizes too, but honestly, the players are more interested in this than they are in the money.
Yes. I would be too.
Yep.
I mean, we're lucky because we actually get like promo cards made of us, but you know, still, if you could win something and become this, it's pretty darn cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. So we love, you know, the tournament players here, and they're like some of them are our biggest fans that have been coming year after year, and so we really try to make it special every year. We have a cool playmat that we're giving away that's just like this Delirium board, and you know, I've been going and signing stuff for them, and we're showing off the new expansion. So another teaser for those of you who are really into it. Not only does this set Delirium use the insight mechanic, but the next set that's not going to be coming out till the end of the year is called Deliverance, and it also uses the insight mechanic, but in a totally new way. So we've like tied the sets together in a really powerful way, so they're going to play super well together, so that people can like get used to the strategy and have different trade-offs of how they work. And I can't wait to show that one off. So at a future event, we'll talk about that one.
Definitely looking forward to it. I mean, Ascension's great, and you know, you'll be getting more of it soon. Thank you so much, Justin, for coming on today.
Thank you.
So Justin, obviously from Ultra Pro and Stoneblade, and this is Jason Levine with another Dice Tower preview here from Gen Con.